Hello, I'm Marcus Railton, and welcome back to the second series of the ScotsCare podcast. ScotsCare is the only charity dedicated to helping disadvantaged Scots in London through a range of support, including financial grants, advocacy, counselling and sheltered housing for older Scots, job coaching, social events, befriending and support for children and families. The charity's been running for 400 years to help break the cycle of poverty experienced by some Scots. In the new series, I'll be chatting with guests from all walks of life, from celebrities and authors, athletes and actors, business entrepreneurs to academics, all with one thing in common: Scots heritage. And they enjoy a good blether. Gregg Boyd is with me this week. He is an economist turned chef who has done a fantastic job of reinventing traditional Scottish food for the 21st century with his company, Old Hag. Gregg went from pop-up street food just after COVID to, in 2024, February to be exact, opening a bricks and mortar establishment called the Shoap. The Shoap in North London sells the best of Scottish product that you can sit down and enjoy with a pint of Tennent's Lager. Gregg and I spoke about his vision and his enviable ambition. He spoke candidly about the learning curve he's been through over the last few years. We chatted about how a chance meeting at his market stall led to him catering for the Scottish Government in London. And he revealed his plans for the future of the shop and bringing modern, tasty Scottish food to as many people as possible. So here we go on the ScotsCare podcast with Gregg Boyd of Old Hag and the Shoap.
ScotsCare.
Gregg, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. Good to be here.
How is life at the moment since the Shoap opens? Is it full on, I expect, or is that an understatement?
It's full on, but you know what? It's sort of what I expected it to be. I think when you dream about something for so long and for so many years, and it finally comes round and you open the doors, you sort of just settle into this rhythm that you've sort of been imagining for so long. So although it's busy and I'm always kind of got my mind on the shop and the business, it's, as I say, it's something I signed up for. So I'm just glad it's actually happened.
Well, let's come on and talk about the shop, but let's just kind of reverse a bit, and I'll talk a bit about where you're a Glasgow boy like me. So whereabouts did you grow up in Glasgow?
I grew up in Kirkintilloch until I was about 17, and then I moved through to Edinburgh to go to uni. So I changed allegiances a wee bit there, big jump. But yeah, I grew up in Kirky. I spent most of my time in the city, same as yourself probably.
Yeah, our friends, so we used to go to I used to consider Kirkintilloch to the countryside. Our friends had a caravan in Kirkintilloch. When did you move to London? What was that, after university? And I presume it was for work.
Yeah, I studied town planning of all things at uni. So when I finished uni, I got an opportunity to move down here for a graduate job, and I took it because it was the only one I got. So I ended up just moving to London without any real thought, to be honest. I just wanted to get down here for 6 months and try and get a transfer back up to Scotland as quickly as I could. So I ended up going into town planning, a bit of economics, and going down the full corporate route, wearing the suit in Holborn. And I've been here 10 years now, so I never left.
That's a big move then, isn't it? I presume you moved down on your own. I mean, culturally, that must have been a bit of a head shift for you.
Yeah, I'd been living in Edinburgh, enjoying sort of student life and the rent as well. And then to move to London, I ended up getting a flat over Skype, which is kind of normal now because everyone's on Zoom and Teams. But at that time, Skype was, I remember trying to get it going. It was really hard. And I met the guy who I was moving in with on Skype on the Friday, and I moved in on the Monday, came down without any mates, big city. Spent most of my weekends travelling around exploring it, but didn't really have anybody down in London with me. So I used to just call my mates all the time, and it took me a good 6 months, to be honest, to actually feel like it was a good city. I think I was very homesick for a long time. Part of the reason was that I couldn't really go anywhere and get Scottish food. You know, I will come on to that, but I think that was one of the main things. I felt like there were Scottish people in London, but it was very hard to connect with them. So I did feel a little bit isolated for the first 6 months until I made a little friendship group and settled in.
I think, yeah, I was very similar to that. I think I spent a long time, moved down for a job completely on my own. And I remember thinking in a city of like 7 or 8 million people, I felt extreme loneliness for quite, I ended up like a nutter talking to people on the tube just to try and get some kind of connection.
I know, and that's the worst thing you can do, as you know, is try and make conversation with people you don't know in London. So I think as a Scot coming down with that outgoing personality, you end up losing it, which is awkward because it's such a good trait to have, I think. And you come to London and it kind of kicks all out of you because you don't want to be that guy that just chats to people, So I'm trying to bring that back now. Be more outgoing.
Terrible, trying to be less friendly. Yeah, I think I remember. I don't think many people could. I mean, I've been down here 20 years now, and I don't think many people could understand me when I came down. I think a lot of people thought I was German. I remember going into a shop and somebody saying, "Yes, Achtung, Achtung." And
I love that. It's quite similar.
Yeah. Look, I want to ask you about diet. We'll come on to the Scottish food because, for me, I think as Scots in Scotland, people take the mick a little bit about our diet. I don't think our diet's particularly bad. Even my wife takes the mick sometimes out because she's English and she'll say, "Oh yeah, but you just deep fry everything." And I was trying to remember back when I was a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s. I didn't feel that I missed out on vegetables. You would have mince and tatties or stuff, but equally I had spaghetti bolognese and stuff like that. It was quite cosmopolitan even then.
No, I agree. And like the deep fried one's the one thing that gets me a lot because if you look at cuisines around Europe, even every country has an element of deep frying in their food. Like arancini, I think it's a good example because it's like these, rice coated in panko deep fried. And if we made that, we would be like, it would be just, we would be slaughtered. But because it's Italian, it's really cool.
Filled with cheese. Filled with
cheese, it's like, but then everyone's like, oh, arancini, unctuous, luxurious, quality. And then we deep fry something that's like unhealthy, greasy, it's like the wrong connotations. And that's just one example. I mean, Spain's got croquetas and much more as well, So I think deep frying is just a method of cooking. It's not like every single person in Scotland deep fries their broccoli, and it's not what happens. So for some reason we've been tarred with that brush, and it does. I've got to be in my bonnet about it, and it's one of my kind of drivers that I want to change that perception. I'm not trying to ditch fried food. I'm just trying to show people that it's part of a wider cuisine.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to in the first series of the podcast. Tony Singh was very similar on that, and he was talking about deep fried ice cream, and somebody had asked him for a deep fried Mars bar. So he'd gone and created something, but it wasn't just that he'd taken a Mars bar out of the wrapper and stuck it in the pan. But
no, we've done a few deep fried Mars bars, but it's always kind of as a joke, playing on that that like badge we've got, but it's never anything too serious, and it's not something I'd be putting up in the Michelin, judging panel. So it's more fun.
I went to a Chinese restaurant a fortnight ago, and my wife had deep fried pineapple, and I had deep fried banana with deep fried ice cream.
There you go.
No one's taking the mick out of them.
No, exactly.
But I think what you said was interesting about coming to London and not being able to get the food that you wanted, and I felt very similar. And my dad, when he was alive, he used to post me in a jiffy bag flat sausage and potato scone because you couldn't get it anywhere. And I think a few years later I discovered potato scones in Marks and Spencer's, but it's just not available, is it?
No, and I mean that's how I ended up starting this business. It was at Burns night during lockdown, and I was dying for some haggis, neeps and tatties, and I thought, where did I get the haggis from? Obviously I could make some mash up and make some sweet up, but it wasn't easy just to jump out and even make it at home. Never mind order that, which you could order everything else. I was living in Dawson, I could get everything else you can imagine. So that was the sort of the trigger for starting the business. But I mean, right back to when I first moved down, I chose Putney as the location to live because I think I read about it on Google, so it was good. And the first thing I did at the weekend was go out and look for some Stornoway black pudding in a cafe. It was like, bizarre, I can't find it. And I'm sure every Scottish person that moves to London has the same experience. And in hindsight, I'm like, well, that was a bit daft because there's nothing. But I just assuming that I would walk in the corner and I would find some square sausage. I just assumed that was normal. But no luck. So it took me 8 years to do something about it. But it was always that was the main driver, really, just a lack of it.
And did you find haggis in London?
No, not. I've only realised recently that Waitrose sells like Swedes
That's right.
But
Yes.
I wasn't shopping in Waitrose when I was just moved to London. I was on a graduate salary. That was the last place I was going. So I couldn't find haggis. I found some tatty scones, like, what did you say?
Marks and
M&S.
Spencer's. Yeah.
I found some in Sainsbury's, but it's more like those like Irish potato farls. So it's not like tatty
Yes.
scones,
Yeah. More floury, aren't they?
which are
Yeah.
more floury, more kind of, they're quite thick. Again, so I just sort of did the same. I would just bring stuff back in my luggage if I was traveling back on a train, freeze it. I just felt crazy. And like even the people we get coming in now are all great customers. I mean, they always reference like adding a suitcase onto their flight so they can bring more stuff back down from Scotland. And I just like, when's nobody like looked at that and thought something needs to be done here? Like, this isn't normal.
So this is what happened. So to set the scene, the pandemic happened. Were you furloughed, or how did it work?
No, yeah. So I mean, to full context, I was working as an economist. We were working at home, so I was working Monday to Friday as normal, absolutely no change. But it was those weekends. I think everybody had like maxed out everything they could do, and this was a year into lockdown. So I think everybody had taken up all the sports they wanted to. They had tried every beer. They had taken, painting. Everything was done. And I just got to that stage in January. I thought, I need to do something here. And for years, I've been thinking about starting up a food business, but life got in the way. Whereas when the lockdown, I had all the time in the world, and it was coming up to Burns night. I was thinking to myself, how am I going to? I wanted to feed my flatmates, and I thought, how am I going to get haggis? So I ended up just going online, made a relationship with the butchers that I have now, cooked the meal for them, and this was a week before Burns because I just decided I was going to cook it early. And ended up giving some to the rest of the building. So the other flats, they all really liked it. And I thought, well, why don't I just set up a website and I could offer people in the area and Dalston the chance to buy haggis, neeps and tatties. And I'd make it in the flat and I'd cycle it to their door. And I got some traction. And by traction, I mean like 4 or 5 people ordered. But I wasn't even selling it. It was just for free, just for fun. And after Burns night passed and I had dropped off some haggis to these random people in a mile radius, I just thought I need to like keep this going because again, I was locked down. I enjoyed it. I love cooking. It's always been a hobby of mine. Maybe this is something that could work. And I just kept the orders open. And then I was dropping it off to local businesses that I really loved in East London just to see what they thought and get feedback. And I asked them to share it on their story if I gave the staff free food. And I did that for about 3 months. And it got to April and some of the restrictions were lifted, so the food markets were opening again. And there was a guy who had seen the Instagram that we started, and he said, would you be interested in applying to be a trader? So that's when it's sort of a moment where I thought maybe we'll actually go for this. And long story short, I bought all the kit in about 4 days and turned up at the market on the Saturday and just started selling it to the punters for the first time ever with no experience.
Which sounds crazy, Greg, when you say it like that. It sounds like you've lost your mind or something. But just have you always been that?
I know.
I'm just, gung ho type of person because, or is it because you were an economist and you kind of went through the spreadsheet side of it and decided, or?
No, to be brutally honest, I hadn't done the numbers at all. It was more, as I say, is to keep myself busy and have a laugh and fulfill that itch probably at the back of my mind I'd had for a long time. I mean, even at uni, I thought when me and my flatmate were going to set up a pizza business, but as a student, it's way too hard. So I just left it. But it was always around. Let's do a food business. Let's do a food business, and then the stars kind of seemed to align that January with the time. Being Burns and having the space and the patience to do it. And I guess that opportunity, the market came up, and looking back, I was just blown. I could not believe we'd got the opportunity. And like a funny story is, I actually gave the guy some food, and at the time I was trying to make it vegan, and not the haggis, but other stuff. I don't know why. My girlfriend was vegan. I was like, I'll try to make it vegan, and I got loads of feedback. And long story short, it wasn't the best dish. It's not something I'm probably proud of now. So I made a bunch of changes to it, and he said, okay, well, on you go then. Come down on Saturday and see how you got on. And I took my flatmate, my girlfriend down, traded the first day. And we just were absolutely hooked on that first day. And we spent the whole summer every weekend whilst working full time, just trading, just next to Broadway Market. And that was it. And then we ended up getting a second market stall towards the end of summer, and we started doing pop-ups for other restaurants and businesses, and never looked back.
ScotsCare, for Scots in London in need of support, financial, practical or emotional.
But it takes a bit of confidence as well, because, I cook the kids' dinner and I'll make my wife's dinner. And I'd feel nervous even if a couple of my friends came round. But you obviously, because you said you were a keen amateur chef, but to then go,
yeah,
I've got it in me. I could do this. And not just it's not chips and egg, it's haggis.
No, it's a lot. There's a lot went into it for sure. I mean, I was spending the whole Thursday night, Friday night because I was working prep, and then I was trying to get it down on the Saturday morning at 7, set the gazebo up, organise a team to help me, and that stuff. I mean, we didn't get much proper kit, so it was even things like remembering to order the gas canisters to keep the little camping stoves on. There was little stuff like that. It was a lot of stuff that I'd never done. So we learned by mistakes for sure. I mean, I didn't set the gazebo up. It took about 7 of us to get a gazebo up on the first day. And we did really well that first week. And I remember thinking, I'm gonna make even more next week. And the next week we sold half of what we'd done before, so we ended up with a bunch of waste. And I remember wanting to cry actually that day, because it was the first time I'd had rejection for that, and it was only the second week, and I just thought maybe it's a terrible idea. So I got instantly I got that feeling of high and low, which never really goes away when you're in hospitality. So I just jumped in to the pool straight away, deep as I could, and learned from mistakes. And funnily enough, it sort of got easier because I'd just jumped in without, I guess, a lot of naivety.
I sometimes wonder if that's a blessing in some ways. But you obviously went back for your third week, and then it starts to come right, I presume.
Yeah, I'd say so. And what is probably not mentioned enough about that lockdown food scene was just a lot of camaraderie, a big community feel. Everybody had been locked inside. Everyone was just dying to get out and meet people again and have chats outdoors. And some of the food traders like me had done the same thing. They'd set up in lockdown and were trading for the first time. So there's a bunch of us that are actually now getting to the stage where we'll have our own bricks and mortar sites 3 years later. So it's a really cool story when you look at it as a whole. So I think that's what kept me going back, was just the feeling that I wanted to go see my new mates again, spend a whole day outside in Hackney, and get to meet customers who again were just keen to see some Scottish food. And we were just getting haggis and tags for that summer. So it was 40 degrees in July, and we were serving up some creamy mash and haggis and gravy, and everyone was like, you need to come up with something different. So we just kind of recreated versions of haggis dishes to make it more summery. I mean, that was it. It wasn't, we really did lack that thought about menu, but that all came in time eventually.
Well, what I think it's a real shame, because I've got 3 kids. They're all born in and around London. And my oldest boy, he's quite Scottish centric. He's 15 now, and he likes haggis. My other 2 won't touch it. But sometimes I think haggis gets a bit of a bad name because people go, "Oh, what the hell? What the hell is that?" Or, "Yeah, but it's not Burns night." Whereas it was a few weeks ago actually, Greg, and I was thinking, I want to have haggis, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I went back to. I thought, I can't believe I can't find a bloody haggis. So, but I think you've done a brilliant job in kind of reinventing it for the 21st century, because I was reading that haggis pizza, haggis tikka masala, and I think these are great ideas.
That first year, as I say, it was all about haggis. How many ways can you do haggis? We did a haggis ragu. Honestly, anything you could think of, we were trying to just repurpose haggis. And because my banner was always bringing haggis to life, and that was because we had the haggis creature. Because the old myth, catch the haggis for Burns night, it's like an animal, and I wanted to play on that by creating this creature, the old hag. So there's something as that reference point. It's a bit more creative and easy going. Something that Scottish food often is more traditional bagpipes, tartan, very, as you say, it's not Burns night, so that's when we eat Scottish food. I want to just break away from the 25th of January when that's the only day that people eat Scottish food. So by making it more creative and creating that character, creating the brand, it's allowed us to change people's minds in a different angle. Not just saying Scottish food should be eaten year round because people wouldn't listen, but by creating the brand and having them invest in that, we've then be able to basically just change people's view on it, hopefully, in a positive way. And off the back of those markets, with the next year we ended up doing a pop-up for 6 months, and that was the first time where we had freedom over a menu for, a 4-day week. And I then kind of switched and was like, well, I need to get, everyone's called me the haggis guy. So I was just the haggis guy, and I thought, right, that's fine, but I want it to be more than just haggis, because Scottish food, as we mentioned at the start, I think it's way more diverse than people give it credit for. So I wanted to then focus on the beef, the venison, the cheese, some really good smoked fish, and even the veggie side of it, some fantastic vegetables up there and soft fruits. So I wanted to bring all that into the fore with a solid menu.
Yeah, I like the idea that you're doing Cullen skink wontons. I mean, Cullen skink.
Yeah, that was one of the pop-ups.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cullen skink was my mum's kind of go-to dish. I loved that as a kid. But so how does Cullen skink wontons work? Just briefly talk us through that.
Yeah, no. So we took Cullen skink. If you deconstruct that, you've got some smoked haddock in there. You've got dairy in the form of milk, where you poach the haddock in, and then some nice mustard. And we thought, well, let's do like the smoked haddock in a wonton, and then make a broth from that smoked haddock liquor. So you almost like then creating it so that the wontons sit within the liquor, and that's a very common thing in Chinese cuisine. And it's, again, it kind of goes back to my core, which is about, right, Scotland might not have the repertoire of dishes that Italy has, Spain has, China has, but we do have the produce. So we shouldn't be limiting ourselves just because we don't have like the recipe book with all of these amazing dishes. We've got the produce. So really, if you break down a lot of dishes around the world, they're quite similar in like how they're constructed. It's just that they've got a nice name and people know them by that, So I want to try and take the produce and maybe draw inspiration from other countries, but ultimately it's food, it's food at the end of the day, and it's great food from Scotland.
So here we are, and the impression I get from you talking to you now is you're adventurous, you're a bit of a risk taker, you're a smart man, and you're looking around at the landscape, and the landscape's not great for the high street, and you think, sod it, let's open a shop.
Yeah, I know. I guess when you paint all day, you've definitely you've worked me out. No, I think I realised that after the residency we did, where we had the menu on, people were saying, "Oh, any chance you can get some square sausage in, or tatty scones, or any chance you can get some herbal smokies, or this type of cheese?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not really set up for that. I'm just at a market stall, just making something and then selling it." So I was like, I need fridges for that. I need a bigger kitchen. I need a space where people can come and sit down and enjoy a pint of Tennent's and have a canine brew, and we can, create the whole thing. So the only way to do that was to get.
At this point, you're going back to the beginning of your learning curve again. From now it's the gazebos all over again, but on a much grander scale, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Because a market, you're trading next to other people. You're not in charge of a lot of things, and when you've got your own space, it's your space. You can kind of create it how you want. So even from the music to what we serve in terms of drinks, the times. I wanted to try and do that, give it a proper go. And to be honest, it's not like being plain sailing from the start. It was really a struggle at the start to get in touch with the Scottish community. I knew everyone was out there, but it was hard to just get, I just wanted to get a megaphone, just shout in London, just say, come down and try us out. But it was so hard to connect. And then I knew that the Shoap would be a really good idea. If it, we didn't get the influx of customers, it would definitely get the word out quickly around London. And I think that was the first time we were going to do that, in terms of reaching people. So when we put the news up about that, it just took on arms and legs and took us to another level. And I knew that we'd done the right thing there, because there was going to be people for a start. It was going to be customers. We did a Kickstarter as well to help us get open. We did really well with that. So I think I knew there would be like a really strong core customer base from the start, which I'm really grateful for. We had lots of messages asking for certain things, and we opened in February. Probably a bit of a tough time for most hospitality businesses, but we have a really good, solid, captive audience of Scottish people who haven't had a taste of home for so long. So it's all been pretty solid since the start.
It must have been quite heartening. You said you did a Kickstarter. So for anyone who doesn't know, it allows you to bring in capital for the business from punters, basically, who can put towards it. So you must have seen that you were kind of pushing at an open door to a certain extent. There was a want for that kind of business.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think the Kickstarter was fundamental because I wouldn't have opened the shop, even not from a financial point of view, but if there wasn't that like real keen interest, because the Kickstarter works, people basically buy their lunch in advance, so you get the capital injection, people get their sandwich and their coffee, etc. When they come and we're open. So it was so good to see. I think we had 500 odd people contribute to that, and that was before we had that the increase in followers on Instagram and the publicity. So I think if we'd done that after, it would have been even better. So it was really, really heartwarming, to be honest, to hear that and see that, and it's all worked out for the best.
And are you seeing a willingness of non-Scottish people coming to the shop?
Yeah, I think the reason for opening in Islington, I live in Islington as well, and I know that the type of food places in Islington work because people are keen to try new things. Like the residents here are always looking for like a different food option. So we were going to be that. I knew for a fact, and it's like a good area, a good mix of young and old, easy to get to. So because of that, it's not just Scottish people that come. It is a destination for Scots, and we get people coming from Essex, Kent, even as far as the Cotswolds. But we do have locals who are from all over the world, and people pop their head in, and like those, we've got soft, crispy, or well-fired rolls, and people are just like, "What are you talking about?" It's good. I think they like that. Like, what is a soft roll? What's a well-fired roll? It's burnt on purpose. Like, what you don't. All right, okay, and they'll go, all right, okay, I'll have that then. And I'm amazed to just see people go for those well-fired rolls and have a clue what it is. It's cool.
It's just nice. I was having this discussion with my lad yesterday. We went to get some rolls, some baps from Tesco down the road, and everything was just soft. And he's going, "What about these burger buns?" And I was trying to, he's never had it. I was trying to explain to him about a Morton's roll. This
crispy roll, yeah,
crispy roll, and he couldn't get it through his head. And I kind of, so are you at the Angel end of Islington or the Highbury Islington end?
We're at the Angel end, which is a great spot for us. And we bake our own Morton's rolls because it was the only way we could make it work. I would have probably worked with Morton's if it would work, but travelling and keeping them fresh is no chance. So we decided to just work on a recipe and get them right. So now we're churning out our soft, crispy well-fired rolls every morning, and I think it's one of the best parts. You come in the morning, you smell the bread out the oven, really good square sausage coming from Edinburgh, good tatty scones from Giffnock, south of Glasgow. So that's just the kind of building blocks of what we've got on offer. But I think I want to get the rolls right, and everything else would follow.
Social isolation is a growing and often unseen problem in big cities like London. ScotsCare's Leather Buddies programme matches a ScotsCare volunteer with a client in need of company for a weekly chat to help build back connections. If you think you're on your own in London, ScotsCare can change that. Don't suffer in silence. Talk to us at info@scotscare.com.
Let me ask you about pies, because let me ask you two questions. First, about Scotch pies. You bake your own rather than buying them in, and I've seen a picture of you baking the pies, and they look tremendous. But what was your thought process behind that? Because it would have been easier for you just to buy them in, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think again it goes back to the quality of produce thing, and what I'm really passionate about is where do we source the meat from? What's the cheese like? What how can we make it the best version of what it can be? And I wanted to get really good quality lamb mince. We've got our own recipe for Scotch pies, so to get them in, I'd just be missing an opportunity there to really show off some good quality mince. And I think there's just something really satisfying about filling pies, like them. It's like quite a therapeutic process, and it's just important to me that we're as true to authenticity as possible, and we can do as much as we can. I mean, Mother's Pride bread is the one thing we've not tackled yet, but I'm sure that'll be next.
And then I remember being in my mum and dad. They retired to Saltcoats on the West Coast. I remember taking my wife there years ago, probably when she was still my girlfriend. And it was a bit of a crazy experience because Saltcoats, mad Rangers town. It's just crazy pubs. And I was taking her down I took her aid to the bakery for a macaroni pie, and she couldn't get her head around this kind of middle class English girl. Couldn't get her head around. She's got, it's a pie, but it's got macaroni in it, and your macaroni pies look fantastic. They do. They look another level.
Yeah. Yeah, no, again, it's a good opportunity for something that might look and sound a bit strange. It's a good opportunity for me to get some really good Scottish cheeses in there. So, we're using a couple of different Scottish cheeses. We use Crowdy and we use mild cheddar. So you've got mild cheddar to give it richness. The Crowdy is more like a ricotta, so you get nice smoothness in there. And then we use some Hebridean mustard in it as well. So, you're elevating something that people have eaten their whole life, and it's not to try and come across as like people might say, "Oh, that's a bit fancy." It's not really about that. It's just about showing people that we've got fantastic produce and we can incorporate it into classic dishes that people know and love in a cultural sense, and it can still be even better. And that's always important to me.
The final thing I'll say to you is, I think, apart from, I did see a lot of press when the Shoap was launching, and I thought that's really heartening, and I really enjoyed seeing all that press. But where I first saw you and tasted your food was at Scotland House, the Scottish Government House, and I thought, that's great, you're there. So are you affiliated to Scotland House? But that must be a good connection for you.
Yeah, it's great. That came about when we were at the market at the start, because someone who works at Scotland House was walking through and saw the Scotland flag on the sign and decided to get whatever we were cooking that week. I can't remember what it was, but he liked it and told Kirstine, who heads up events there, about us, and she got in touch and said, "Are you interested in catering some events that we've got?" And again, I had never done that, and the first one we did was a Chinese business investor day. So we did a collaboration, again, cross collaboration, where we did like Scottish roll, mushroom spring rolls, and Highland beef black bean tarts. We did some iron brew, sweet and sour chicken. We really wanted to just like show off some pretty crazy ideas, and again, having a laugh with food. It's not too serious. It's just having some really good produce and a little nod to the cultural side. And that was our first event. I had never done any catering before. I remember getting there about 8 hours early just to make sure it went well, and we've just kept. Luckily we did a decent job and kept that relationship going. And John Webster, who heads up Scotland House, being a big fan of us and really good support. Yeah, we're always involved with them, so it's a good opportunity.
That's brilliant. A short word to the future. Are you too immersed in the present, or do you have one eye on a string of shops or an international shop?
I'm looking next probably at getting some sort of archway where we can have it as a production kitchen, make more rolls and Empire biscuits, and then look to get the distribution side of things, because there's a big Scottish community in the southeast of England, southwest of England, and a lot of those people can't get to the shop every day. So I get a lot of messages asking people, can you deliver, can you ship? So I think if we could get into having a sort of distribution arm down here, and we can bring all more cheeses and more meats down and get that to people's doors, that would be a real dream. And I've always got ambitions of getting back up to Scotland eventually. So even if we get a wee Scottish outpost, that'd be brilliant as well.
Greg, it's been utter joy talking to you. Although I am quite hungry now, and I when I moved to London, I lived at the top of your road. I lived at the top of Upper Street for years, just at the Highbury and Islington end, and then out and out and out. So we're in Surrey now. But I will get to the shop, and I'm talking to John Webster tomorrow actually. So I will.
Nice, brilliant.
I'll give you a shout there. Okay.
Yeah, both come up for sure.
Greg, thank you very much. Thanks for joining the ScotsCare podcast.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
ScotsCare, supporting Scots in need in London. You can make a real difference to our clients through a monthly donation of any amount. Simply visit scotscare.com and click donate to get started.